Hello, Portland. Hi, Portland. Thanks for listening in again. Time for another episode. I'm excited about this one. Portland's been doing some cool stuff lately. We got Oktoberfest coming up on the square, so that's going to be really cool. We've got a guest today that is going to be a lot of fun to talk to. Bubbly personality. Kelly's going to be here today, which is awesome. I know I've been driving down the road on the freeways, and I'm not seeing as much graffiti. So that's a bonus. I know there was a big push to get a lot of the graffiti removed from the side of the highways. It was in cooperation with the rail service, the city, the cleanup crews, and a lot of that was removed. With like anything, though, you might be seeing a little bit of it coming back, but it still is better than what it was, so that's kind of cool. And the city commissioner, Renee Gonzalez, plans to propose a new criminal penalties for the graffiti on public property. So, you know, that's it. From what I've been reading, it's to discourage taggers from taking up spray cans during unrest, which we did have a little bit of that during COVID. So this is to hopefully make it a little bit of a deterrence to go out and tag and do things. The proposed ordinance would create a new Class A misdemeanor offense carrying a minimum sentence of 7 days in jail and 50 hours of alternative community service, during which convicted taggers would clean up graffiti. Didn't know that there was no penalties for creating wonderful artwork on public property, but evidently, from what I'm reading, there's not very much they can do. So, I don't know. There was a documentary on YouTube talking about how maybe we should focus on the fentanyl maybe being the root of some of this stuff and not necessarily the taggers, but I don't know. It's a deep issue with a lot of different angles and situations going on. Maybe community relations needs to happen a little bit better. I don't know. Anthony from the Willamette Week did a really cool article, so I'm just pulling some of that information from there. Vandalism has eroded Portland's beauty, Gonzalez told the Willamette Week in an email. From graffiti on the streets, street signs to broken windows downtown, writing. It has left deep scars on the city's sense of self. Beyond any election-related spike in spray painting, Portland needs the new penalties because judges fail to impose real ramifications on vandals. That's in quotes. Gonzalez says judges don't sentence, so district attorneys don't prosecute. So police don't arrest, Gonzalez said in a description of the plan. I think it is a good starting point for conversation. I think that's the main takeaway for me. Just to kind of wrap this little news thing up, the Portland Police Bureau has arrested some high-profile taggers lately, largely through the work of 2 officers who carve out time to investigate graffiti. So yeah, there is some movement forward. I know that the same YouTube documentary that I watched, it then hit the media that they found the stash of all of the paint cans and everything. So this is good. So today I have a guest. She goes by KJ. At least that's what we've come to call her here at Ned Space. Her name's Kelly, and she is running for District 3 City Council. And I want to bring her on now. And Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Been holding on to that for a minute.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out here. The podcast studio hasn't been used for quite a while. And so it's fun to have people up here and talk about Portland. And I'm really excited to have you here because, I don't know, I'm a little envious because I'm trying to help Portland, but you kind of took it to a whole new level here. What do you think about the news article? It's interesting. Well, I guess maybe my question to you is there maybe a little bit of this? It's like the public outcry for something. Are we, not that we're grasping at straws, but are we doing this because something publicly needs to be, you know what I mean? It's like this visual thing of, oh, well, we're doing something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like in your neck of the woods there in District 3? Do you see a lot of the graffiti being covered up, or do you see it popping up really quick? What's the temperature there for you, District 3?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I used to use this podcast studio years ago, working with clients, so it's kind of fun to be back. It's
awesome.
A different vibe today than it was back then, but I'm liking it.
That's
it's
awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, yes, we are seeing a lot of graffiti out in District 3. And, graffiti is really in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? There's some graffiti that looks super cool and some that just looks like, now I can't read that street sign, thanks. And for that reason, there is a public safety aspect to it. And I think that you can't be graffitiing the name off of a freeway exit sign so that I can't tell which exit I'm at. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I saw that on, it was like 4 or 5 or somewhere. It's like, well, how do I know where to go? I mean, I know where to go.
Right.
My wife thinks I know where I go. But in some of the graffiti too, like I'm a street photographer, so early on I would photograph a lot of the rail cars and different stuff because the rail cars go through every city, and then you get the city different looks of graffiti, and some of it is actually really, really cool. But you're right, there is this like balance of, okay, is it a cool mural or is it defacing public property, right?
Right. I feel especially in a city with so much public art, which is one of the things I love about Portland, surely there must be an outlet that does not predicate itself upon working over somebody else's work, whether that is a city sign or somebody's mural, And unfortunately, I do see a lot of graffiti that is on existing murals. I drove past a mural yesterday, and I thought that is such a shame.
Yeah.
And for small businesses that pay artists to come out and paint their buildings and their storefronts, and then someone comes along and tags it, and it's like, look, the tagging culture goes back forever, right? I mean,
it does.
I watched what is it? Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I'm saying the words in the wrong order. I'm showing my age.
Yeah.
But I really do think that there needs to be a respect for what other folks have done in a space.
Yeah, there's a really cool business that hired somebody to come in and do photorealistic murals. It's like a soccer store or something, kind of over close to the 405 soccer field area in Portland. And this was like 6 months ago. I took some photos of it because I just thought it was done really well. And then literally 4 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I drove by there and it was almost unrecognizable. It had graffiti all over it. And I'm like, man, there's so many more empty canvases, I guess.
Right.
Why couldn't you, I don't know.
Not that I would encourage someone to spray paint a cement wall, but there are plain cement walls around,
Absolutely. Yeah. So District 3 has what? give me a little lay of the land. So you've got, what are the main like features of District 3? You've got, is OMSI in District 3?
OMSI is in District 3. It's right
Okay.
on the edge. District 3 really runs from the river,
Okay.
the Willamette, on the western edge to either 82nd Avenue or 205 on the eastern edge.
Okay.
And then it runs from the southern border of the city
Okay.
to. It sort of does a lot of zigzagging, Tetris looking stuff
Got
at the
it.
top because they attempted to follow existing neighborhood association boundaries. It's not 84, it's not Sandy, but it's kind of
Got it. Yeah.
moving around that. But with the exception of Selwood, Westmoreland, that is
Okay.
actually part of District 4, even though
Oh.
it's on the east side of the river.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So let's kind of tie this together a little bit. So Ross Island Sand and Gravel, is that part of District 3? No.
I don't think so. I think
No.
maybe Ross Island itself.
Because there's the, what's the amusement? Is it Oaks Park?
Hmm.
So just north of that, there's an old abandoned Ross Island Sand and Gravel processing area that has just it's fun to look at, but at the same time it's like, oh man, because like there is so much graffiti. Like it's an abandoned like old processing area. I wish the city would kind of step in and say, hey guys, like let's redo this whole area. But anyway,
Well,
it's just, there are pockets of a huge amount of graffiti and because it's on private land, what this article that I mentioned earlier is all about, like the public property type stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think that starting with public property is a good place to start. One thing that I don't know, did we talk about New York? Have we talked about New York?
We haven't.
Yeah. So
I'm open to talking about New York.
I moved here from Brooklyn.
Rumor has it they have good pizza.
There's some good pizza. Although my favorite place in South Brooklyn was shut down for health code violations.
Oh no.
Yeah, I never like to see that. We went
Yeah.
there so many times as a family.
Yeah.
But specific to the graffiti discussion, there was a space in Queens where it was an old factory that was no longer in use, and people were tagging it all the time, and now it's like graffiti mecca.
Wow.
So I almost like the idea of having a spot that's on private land where it's like, hey, come tag the heck out of this place.
Yeah.
This is your spot.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the same cred, I guess, as a tagger, but
It'd be cool if OMSI, like, in a positive way, motivated that art style, because they've got some property there and some pretty cool murals. It'd be cool to see them take like a section and have this like art installation, like a living art type thing, where like every quarter they have, like, because I know during the summertime they have kids that come and do educational science type stuff, but I don't know. I mean, there could be something to be had there. I don't know.
it could be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So the graffiti stuff, we were talking earlier, there's another person running for city council that experienced some graffiti. So I just know that as a general thing in Portland, for whatever reason, people are traveling to Portland to do graffiti, to do different things and be artistic and all of that. But things are heated, and also graffiti can give messages, positive or negative, and I'm all about the positive when it comes to Portland in general. But
For sure.
yeah, whoever the gentleman, which if people want to do research online or whatever, like I wish him the best, just like with anybody that's running for Portland City Council. Like, nobody wants anything bad to happen to anybody, because we all deserve to have our voice, recognized as far as how we want the direction of the city to go. So, I hopefully that person can move on and have some peace around all of that, as sad as that is, that your home got marked or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know. I not that you need to comment anything about that, but it is something that I know is affecting a lot of different neighborhoods. And remind me, what district was that one in?
He's in District 3. And
District
the irony
3.
is
Okay.
he was endorsed by Renee Gonzalez.
Uh,
So it's a
wow.
full circle situation.
Okay. So that totally makes sense. So yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, for sure. It, you don't. I'm all about freedom of speech, but when your freedom of speech is spray painting words on somebody's front steps, I'm not about that.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for all of that, and yeah, and there's some really cool. Speaking of time and place, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but we got that thing coming up where 23, 22 different people, like that's the forum. Like you want to be able to ask those questions.
Right.
Like if everybody that's running for city council is showing up to an event, then that is the time where if you've got a beef, I mean, just say it,
Yeah,
and
right.
then people can address it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just to clarify for folks at home, or
Yeah.
at the gym or in the car or wherever you are
Yeah,
listening.
right.
The Foster Powell Neighborhood Association, of which I am the chair, is co-hosting a candidate forum this coming Sunday with the Mount Scott Arleta Neighborhood Association and the Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association. And would that 21 candidates, 22 candidates were all of the candidates running in our district. But in fact, I think there are 30 or 31.
Wow.
Well, I know one person just recently dropped out. So at least
Yeah.
29 or 30 folks running in our district. But getting that many people in a room at the same time during campaign season is a challenge. We send out a scheduling request saying, when are all the times you're available, so that we could get as many candidates as we could
Wow.
into the event. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's, there will be a formal portion of the event where we ask folks to introduce themselves. Our MC is going to then group the candidates by the priorities they've said they have and ask them to answer a couple questions.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a mix and mingle at the end, which is where you'd have that opportunity to find someone and chat.
Yeah. And I think that's so important just for community health. It's, I spent 10 years in Madison, Wisconsin, and I remember one of the biggest things as far as a positive impact for the neighborhood is the local city of Fitchburg had 2 of their police people would show up at the local Starbucks for like 4 hours and just hang out with the community and have that interaction and like, oh, you're normal people. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, you're like 5 houses down from where I live. Like, how bad it is in my neighborhood. Like, so you get that reality check of like, they're humans too. So
Right.
having real like everyday conversation about, what kind of dog you have at home, it could be like something really simple,
Yeah.
but it humanizes people in a way that matters. So
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome that event is going on. And you said that was sponsored by something that you were also involved with.
Yeah, so Southeast Uplift, which is going to be the District 3 coalition office after the new year, they were going to have a mixer for all of the District 3 candidates, and they had to reschedule a couple of times due to work that was being done in their building. I'm pretty sure that was why. And so they did eventually have a mixer, but before they announced the final date, I was talking to a couple of candidates, and I said, we don't have a big mixer happening in our district. We should get that going.
Yeah.
And so the neighborhood association was the perfect vehicle. And so,
That's awesome.
yeah. It's really been, mine has really been a campaign of doing, involved in the neighborhood association, a couple other things which we can get to. But
weird timing on the graffiti thing because like it was the news thing and then the event happened with the person that's also running getting tagged. So yeah, everybody listening, I'm starting a new thing. It is called Fact or Fiction, And the goal of this, just so you all know, is I'm going to have a whiteboard up in the studio, and I'm also going to have a spreadsheet. And all of the guests that come onto the show are going to guess whether or not the headline or story is fact or fiction. And we're going to do anywhere from like 3 to 5 different ones. So it's just a fun way to have conversation and to tie everything together. So Kelly was seeing what I put down here, and she said, I know the answer to all of these.
No, that's not what I said. I said, I don't know the answer to any of these. I will make my best educated guesses.
Oh, man, I was trying to make you look good.
Yeah, but then when I get them all wrong, I'm going to look like I'm full of baloney.
Oh, man. Oh, so, yeah, I found some really cool facts. We'll just say they're all facts and all true. But, yeah, so we'll just start with the first item. If everyone knows, or maybe you don't know, Washington Park has an amazing rose garden there and an amphitheater and just a really cool community green space. The rose garden has all kinds of different varieties of roses. And supposedly there are also over 10,000 roses in Washington Park. So I don't know, over 10,000. So the headline says it's over 10,000, but it really doesn't say how many. So do we think that that is fact or fiction?
Okay, so we're going with the 10,000 roses in Washington Park's
Yeah.
Rose Tusk Garden. I'm going to go with fact.
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. It should have been
Correct.
this one. I psyched you out.
That was the answer I felt most confident about. I'm like, oh no.
No, it is definitely correct. There are over 10,000 roses in Washington Park. So the International Rose Test Garden is the oldest such garden in the U.S. Do we think that that is fact or fiction?
Oh, that's a second question. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
You know, there's a strong chance that the answer is no, because Portland is a much newer city than cities on the East Coast. However,
True.
I want to go with true because I've lived in a few of the cities on the East Coast, and I don't remember just such a garden.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with true. It is the oldest such garden in the U.S.
Correct.
Yay.
I got it.
There
Okay.
you go.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I'm excited now. All right.
All right.
Bring it
So
on. What's next?
So question 3. Have you ever heard of the garden burger?
I've been eating garden burgers since the 90s.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
The garden burger. So I didn't even know this, if it's true. Garden Burger, the famous veggie burger brand, was established in Portland in 1981.
That really feels like something that could be true, doesn't it?
It feels that way,
Yeah.
but I can neither confirm nor deny such accusations.
Not until I give my final answer. Thanks, Regis. Gosh, 81. I'm trying to think of the first time.
1981. What were you doing in 1981? Were you in like grade school?
I was in 1981. In 1981, I moved from a semi-rural house in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, to a suburban enclave in Virginia.
Wow.
That's what I was doing in 81. I'm pretty sure it was 81. Maybe that was 82. Oh my gosh. My dad was in the Air Force. We moved around a lot. And actually by then he was out of the Air Force. But
Did you use Aquanet in your hair?
I can neither confirm nor deny. Did I used to use a lighter to
1981?
heat up my black eyeliner before I put it on? Yes, I
no.
did. And yes,
Wow.
I did use Aquanet until I learned how bad it was for the environment.
The ozone. That was the whole thing. Yeah. No, I hear you. I don't know.
81
you
just
tell
seems
me.
early. maybe.
Does it?
But it's also one of those things where I could imagine a garden burger existing in Portland for 10
It's-
years before it's moved to another city or like
Exactly.
mass
I think this
produced.
is where quinoa was invented.
You can't invent a grain, man.
Oh, sorry. Oh, the use of it.
Yeah,
Like,
okay, the use of it.
which-
But I'm pretty sure that was not invented
Okay.
in Portland. I think that's
Yeah, so
prehistoric.
Garden Burger, the famous
Western
veggie burger
history.
brand, was established in Portland in 1981. Just go with your gut.
I'm gonna say no because I haven't said no. I'm gonna say it's fiction.
Oh, no, that is actually
That
the
is
real
actually
deal.
correct. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I was trying to like mix it
1981.
up because I wanted to say yes, but
I know.
felt like there were too many yeses
Yeah.
in a row.
There's a new veggie burger at like Burger King and everywhere now, but it's not called the Garden Burger.
Is that the Impossible Burger?
The Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
I think whoever did the Garden Burger maybe had a I don't know, like think about how successful Mr. Garden Burger could be
I know.
if he just named it something different. Yeah, the Wonder Burger.
Yeah, maybe that's not the best name, but I have to tell you,
Maybe they were
Garden burgers
cousins.
are good.
Yeah, they are.
I really like them,
Yeah,
and
they are.
confession, I'm not a vegetarian.
I'm not either, but I was raised a vegetarian and I didn't have my first hamburger until I was 19.
Wow,
And
my cousin.
and it tasted like cardboard.
Yeah, right.
I was like, what is this? I enjoyed the tomato and all the other stuff on it. But now it's like, yeah. So I just got a trigger barbecue thing and I've been doing like everything on there. And yeah, that's a story for another day.
Right.
Next question or statement. Jansen Beach or Hayden Island once had the largest amusement parks in the United States.
Well, now I know.
Did you know there was one
I
there?
did know there was an amusement park and that there was the big wooden roller coaster,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Was it the largest amusement park in the U.S.? I assume at the time, like limited real estate, right? In terms of how large you could make that park. But
So before you make up your mind, though.
okay.
So Jansen
Hmm.
was also a clothing company, right?
Right.
And they made swimsuits.
Okay.
So I don't know.
But wasn't
There
that
was a big
different
swimming
spelling?
area there too. Did you know that?
There was a what?
That was a big swimming area. Like it
I
was.
feel like I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
people like on
like-
the beach, and
yeah,
and there
I love
used to be
history.
a pool, a big pool at the hotel there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So again, Jansen Beach, Hayden Island, which is, well, I always call it Jansen Beach. I don't know. I drive by there. Yeah, Jansen Beach. Once had the largest amusement park in the United States. Dun, dun, dun.
Coming off a failure.
I should
too.
do the Jeopardy thing.
Yeah, you should. Okay, yes. We'll just go yes.
Correct.
Hey,
Covering my eyes
there
for
you
those
go.
who can't see me. All right.
Oh, yeah, that was anyone listening, if you just YouTube search Oregon amusement parks, there's like this crazy history in Oregon for amusement parks. There's Oaks Park, there was the Jansen Beach one, which they still have the carousel at the mall there in the Jansen Beach. It's like
Do they
from the
really?
original. Yeah, yeah.
I've been to them all so many times I
Yeah,
don't remember.
tucked off in the corner. Yeah.
Wow. I'll check it out next time.
And then there's south of Eugene. There's that amusement park down there tucked into the woods. Oh, what is that called? Oh, no. Enchanted Forest.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know
Oh,
if you ever
Enchanted Forest, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's
That. In fact, I think I've stopped in the parking lot, but it was closed.
yeah, so they were closed after COVID for a while, and then they reopened. So I think for 2 years now they've been up and running again, and that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, if you YouTube the Oregon amusement parks history, it's pretty cool actually.
That is
So
yeah.
part of this job allows me to learn a bunch of stuff, which is pretty awesome. Let's see. Oh, this is the last one. So Portland, Oregon, the health and beauty aids market in the Pacific Northwest city of Portland is on the verge of collapse due to the mass infiltration of cheap counterfeit toothbrushes. Police said Monday, every day thousands of counterfeit toothbrushes, mostly of Asian origin, are falling into the hands of ordinary Portland citizens, including children, said Police Chief Bob Day, who added that the toothbrushes in question closely resemble legitimate ones, but are labeled Oral-B instead of Oral-B, so O-R-E-L instead of O-R-A-L, cost nearly a dime less and can be purchased from lone dealers on the street corners. If not stopped, this could be a gateway for other illegitimate items like off-brand napkins and black market number 2 pencils, not number 3, just so we know. City officials also fear that organized crime figures are taking control of Portland's recycling program. Portland has an amazing recycling program.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's, I've had people visit from out of town and they're like, you recycle? Well, yeah. Don't you? No? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's a Portland thing. But what do you think? Do you think there's like an organized crime syndicate on Oral-B?
I'm just going to say reading this feels a little bit like I'm reading The Onion.
Oh.
But having said that, reading The Onion now sometimes feels like I'm reading the New York Times. So,
and this is Portland. So
it is Portland,
which we just had the Portland Weird Festival.
Yeah.
Last weekend. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, if it could happen here.
This is true. But I think I'm going to go back to my this is fiction answer, and maybe I'll get this fiction answer correct. We shall see.
That's, I don't know. I mean, they could closely resemble legitimate ones.
Correct.
Oh, she got her. This is fiction. And man, I didn't even have to tell you that I may have. I can neither confirm nor deny that it might have come from The Onion.
Do I know my onion or what?
Yeah. Let's peel back the layers. Oh, thanks for being a good. So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5, and you only got 1 wrong. So that's
got 1 wrong, and that was because I was trying to change things up.
I know.
I wish it could be like a half point. I understand. I said the wrong answer.
If we grade this on the curve, do you get an A?
Ooh.
I mean, that might be. I don't know.
I mean, 4 out of 5 is 80%.
So B.
That's really a B. But
Okay.
if we go with the curve, it depends on how others do, right? That's the definition of the curve.
Yeah.
If I mean, have best numbers.
The fact that you've been eating garden burgers since 1981. Maybe we grade that one a little bit heavier than the Oral-B.
Yeah, fair.
Kelly, your last name.
Mm-hmm.
What's the nationality you think that comes from?
I would guess English.
Okay.
But I don't know that for a fact.
My last name's Chadwick, and you can't get much more English than that. No.
Yeah.
I know. I'm a quarter Spanish, and that's where I get my amazing good looks. You've got a really cool website, and I did pull a little blurb off of your website. I don't know if you care if I read that just a tiny bit.
Would you like me to read it?
I mean, you can, or you can just tell us like who you are real quick, and then I've got a couple just questions. We're going to have some conversation, and I want to learn more about you. And I think the city of Portland and District 3, they need to know who you are as well. And I think anyone running for city council needs to have a voice to where people can learn about, maybe what the city council is for, and we'll get into all of that. But yeah, tell me about you, you're a mom, and that's awesome. And I will just throw in that, you were working in the local neighborhood, and then it kind of spawned from there. So go ahead and tell me what's going on.
Yeah, so, all right. Well, my name is Kelly Janes. As you said, I go by KJ. I'm running for city council because I absolutely love the work that I've done with the neighborhood association. And I also am the president of the 501c3 fundraising organization for Benson Tech High School, which is the Benson Tech Boosters.
Yes.
Which is another, community-based, working with volunteers and parents and teachers and whatnot, and alumni. The alumni community at Benson Tech is out of this world. I can't believe how involved these folks are. They're great. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think they get talked about enough because it seems like every 5 years or something, there's something that hits the local news, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how cool they are. And then they just remodeled the school, and so I'm really excited about that part of the community too. So that's awesome that you have you have your hands in that, which is great.
Can you name 2 things that the namesake of Benson High School is famous for in Portland?
Oh,
I should say in Oregon.
Benson High School. Well, I know they were on the map for like weren't they on the map for computer coding like 10 or 15 years ago? They were doing something really big in computers.
That wouldn't surprise me, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about the actual guy
No.
that it's named after.
No, you know what? Educate me and the people listening, because truth be told, so my wife went to Lincoln High School.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how high schools have these rivalries. So
Yeah.
it was like Lincoln, Benson, and like there's a handful of others. And so growing up in high school, that was really all I knew. But I know that, what was his first name?
Simon.
Simon Benson.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he originally, he has a school named after him, so tell me about it.
Well, the first thing that I think everybody will be familiar with in the city of Portland are the Benson Bubblers, the water fountains that are all over town.
Yes.
So that the original design was his.
Did he have anything to do with the Benson Hotel?
Oh, I would not be surprised if it was named after him, but I don't know for a fact.
All right.
Also, he was the designer. I don't know exactly what his role was. I don't know if he was designer, architect, engineer for the bridge at Multnomah Falls. And he was
Really?
involved with the historic highway in the gorge.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had no idea.
yeah,
That's a very iconic
legit.
place to go whenever, I'm sure you've experienced this when you have friends or family come into town. Where do you want to go?
Yep.
Well, I want to go see Multnomah Falls or the beach, or like there's a handful of
Yeah.
things, and that's one of those iconic picture places to
Yeah,
go.
absolutely.
It's beautiful.
I've got a route through the gorge that I take everyone on. So we go up the highway, and we first stop at the Portland Women Forum Outlook, which looks down over the Vista House, right?
Yeah.
Then we stop at the Vista House. Then
Yeah.
we do the zigzag hairpin turns down the hill. And then we stop at La Tourelle Falls because that one is an easy hike.
Yep.
So if you're not much of a hiker, it's not fully accessible. There's still stairs and it's a muddy path and whatnot. But it is, it's a little bit easier than the hike up to the top of Multnomah Falls.
And if you're getting married, you stop at Bridal Veil Falls.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. But even that said, I'm always seeing folks taking their wedding pictures at the base of La Tourelle Falls because it's an easy hike.
Yeah.
And you can get right down in there and feel the water coming up at you. It's awesome.
Yeah, Portland has some amazing natural resources and places to visit that is just like even Silver Falls, like closer to Salem. there's a day hike you can take, and I think you can visit 10 or 11 waterfalls and like literally walk behind the waterfalls, and it's just
That's
an
so
amazing
cool.
thing. Yeah.
I love it. But then I go out to Tradewinds Drive-Through, which is out in by Bridge of the Gods.
Yes.
They've got really good milkshakes.
Okay.
In case anyone needs to know, that's always my turnaround spot.
The inside info, if you
Yeah.
want great milkshakes.
Banana peanut butter milkshake.
Oh,
It's so good.
is it called the Elvis?
Oh, it should be. Like with a stick of bacon sticking out.
Oh,
No.
well, no, we're
That's
gone
not
too
how
far.
they do it.
Easy
Yeah,
now.
that, I know. Sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Too far.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the gorge is great.
Very, very cool.
So that was Simon Benson.
So Simon Benson, yeah, we went from Simon Benson to milkshakes, and that's pretty awesome. So, where did you go to high school? You weren't even in Oregon.
I was not even in Oregon.
Oh, that's right. But you've got.
Don't hate me. I was
No,
in
it's-
San Francisco.
That's okay.
I didn't live in the city of San Francisco,
It's all
but
right.
my high school was in the city of San Francisco.
I'm okay if. Well, we won't talk about football. Anyway, so
I didn't have football. It was an all-girls school
Oh, okay.
before girls were welcome in the sport of football
Oh boy.
officially.
Yes. Very awesome. Your ties to the Benson thing, all of that. What else? So you did the local
Right.
community thing.
Hmm.
Go back and tell me, is there a moment that was like a light bulb moment for you where you were like, hey, I need to step it up a little bit. There's something within me that I know I just need to do this. Like for me, when I, like with photography, I knew there was a moment. There's definitely a tipping point. I call it the tipping point of like knowing that this is what I need to do. Tell me about that a little bit.
Right. So I'll try not to draw this out too long or take too
Yeah.
many tangents, but oh man, which makes me want to talk about the city of Tangent, which is my second favorite city in Oregon.
Are you sure it's not the city of boring? I'm sorry.
Trust me.
I
Boring is never going to be my favorite.
had
Tangent is going to be my favorite. If I'm going to have one, it's
Okay.
going to be Tangent.
There we go.
Yeah, so I joined the neighborhood association. I kind of stumbled into it by accident. I signed up as a volunteer on the website and promptly forgot. And then I received one day out of the blue a Google sheet to sign up to volunteer to cook a meal for one of the shelters in my neighborhood. And I thought, well, why am I getting this Google Doc? I had no idea. But I signed up to volunteer because it sounded like something I would want to do. And then the meal got canceled because we didn't have enough volunteers. And that happened a couple times. And I think the third time it happened where I had signed up and it got canceled, coincidentally landed on Easter Sunday. And the shelter in question was a family shelter that had a lot of kids in it. And I just sort of was like, yeah, no, not on my watch. I'm not a particularly religious person, despite having gone to a Catholic high school. But I was not raised Catholic. That's beside the point.
Yeah.
Easter was always one of my favorite holidays, and
Sure.
frankly, it's the colored eggs and the candy, right? I mean,
Well,
as a
and
kid.
and like family and community comes
Legit.
together, right? So
Yeah.
that's important to me. I know it's important to you.
For sure. So I said, can I just cook all of it? Since, we've now told everybody we're canceling it. And they were like, are you sure? It's 140 people. And I said, yes, I'm sure. So I cooked 140 full meals. I mean, lasagna. I had all of the materials for salad and fruit salad and cookies. And I recruited my teenager to drop all this off at the shelter. And then I was in communication with the then president of the neighborhood association, and I said, I'm frustrated that these keep getting canceled, and I think that we could solve that problem quite easily if we published the event more and people knew that it was happening. I haven't seen this online. And she said, oh, sure, let's get a drink and talk about it. And I said, okay. And then the first thing she said was, would you like to be our communications chair?
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I have had people, now that I am the president of the chair of the neighborhood association, I've had people say, like, this isn't how you should do it. And I say, oh, would you join our committee then? Because you clearly have good ideas. We'd love your input. And they're like,
Yeah.
everybody always says that. And it's like, yeah, because you got a good idea.
Yeah.
So people want you involved. And I'm the kind of person, generally speaking, who, when asked that question, will say yes.
Yeah.
So I signed up. There's a communications chair. We have not had to cancel a shelter meal since, because we haven't had enough volunteers. We've had one or two for other reasons, but we grew the volunteer base. We've guided that program through multiple iterations now.
Yeah.
And when the former chair said it was time for her to step down, everybody in the room just looked at me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm next. Okay, all right, I'll be the chair." So
time to step up and.
Yeah.
Well, in sports they call it next man up. I guess you were in that spot, and yeah.
Absolutely. And to your point specifically about when was the light bulb moment that I wanted to run for city council, it was probably 18 to 20 months after I had that took that first chair position, the communications chair. And it really was, I have fallen in love with the neighborhood, with the work, with the community, and I need to be doing this all the time. Yeah. And I own a business, and I love my clients. I love my subcontractors.
Yeah.
But I've really found that my heart is in the local community building aspects. So I wanted to expand what I was doing in Foster Powell to the city of Portland.
Yeah. Well, your mom is visiting, right? So that... does this run in your family? I guess. So there's
That's so funny you ask that. She's the past board president of the Pacifica Resource Center, which
really?
Which handles, like, they do Thanksgiving meals for underprivileged folks in town, and they do a whole Christmas spread where they have donations of toys and people can have a shopping experience coming in to pick toys for their kids. They count the homeless population once a year.
Wow.
So in fact, we're going to an event tonight about the Clinton Triangle shelter project.
Wow.
And I told her that I was going, and I said, I'm sorry, I need to go to this because I want to really have a thorough understanding of how that's gone. And she said, well, I would like to go too because it might be useful for the board. And I said, okay, sure.
Yeah.
She's still involved,
Wow. That's awesome. I had no idea. Yeah.
I know. It's so funny that you asked the question.
It's being a parent and then having a relationship with my parents, it gives me perspective because I can only imagine her going to an event with you and kind of sitting back, because I know I would do this with my kids. I'd sit back and be like, that's my girl.
Right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She might be grumpy every time I get here, but man, she's doing good work.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you grew up as a young lady, maybe going to events and getting a little bit of exposure in community and helping others and
I've
all
always
of
been
that.
a volunteer.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. I honestly didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. So neighborhood association work, you went from helping feed to what else is like a big thing that happens at your neighborhood association? What's like takes your time? And I will, like, tongue in cheek say I have a father-in-law who absolutely hates the neighborhood association because he has to get approval of what color house he, like, I'm sure there's other.
We are not that kind of association.
Yeah. So that's why there's going to be some listeners that will say, well, I don't like my neighborhood association. So talk to me about that. What when we say neighborhood association, let's help the listeners understand.
Yeah. Well, I do not wish to cast aspersions upon homeowners associations, but that I think is what most people are thinking of when they hear neighborhood association.
Yeah.
A homeowners association is that group of people who will determine where you have to store your trash cans, what color your house can be,
Yep.
how long you can leave your holiday decorations up,
True.
all that good stuff. And we don't really concern ourselves with that kind of thing.
Yep.
We don't live in a community where everyone is a homeowner, for one thing.
True.
That's a big point as in Foster Powell, but throughout Portland, right?
Yeah.
A lot of renters. And in order to be a member of our association, you only have to live in Foster Powell, own property in Foster Powell, own a business in Foster Powell, or work in Foster Powell. So,
Got it.
if you're working at, I'm going to do a little shout out because it's my regular spot, but if you work at Speedboat Coffee,
Got it.
you are automatically a member of the neighborhood association.
Okay.
So, and we're bound by the triangle of 82nd Avenue, Foster Road, and Powell Boulevard.
Okay.
And
So when you all get together, what do you talk about? Do you talk about like community safety, or what? What's a
Yeah.
typical, if you were to take a step back and
Mm-hmm.
and do like a synopsis of, or like the cliff notes of?
Yeah, Cliff Notes. It's
yeah.
tough to say because we do so much, but on average, environmental issues in the neighborhood, we're doing our best to get someone out to measure the air quality, diesel particulate matter in the air, for example. We, of course, have the shelter meal program. We occasionally do homeless outreach along Powell Boulevard.
Okay.
We do alley cleanup work on occasion. And a lot of our agenda is outside organizations advocating for something, coming to us and asking for a letter of support or endorsement of an existing letter. This is how I got involved with the CEI Hub activism. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's not in our neighborhood. It is, up here along the river, 6-mile stretch of
Okay.
liquid fuel, and it's 90% of the liquid fuel used in the state of Oregon,
Okay.
built on unsound ground in case of earthquake. And we've got a 37% chance of having a massive earthquake in the next 50 years.
Got
so
it.
there's work to be done there.
Okay.
And I know about that because they came to our neighborhood
Okay.
association and asked us to sign on. We voted on it. We signed on.
Yeah.
Then they came back and they said, we're doing a press release. Would you come and support? And I went and I stood behind the speaker holding up signs of neighborhood names.
Yeah.
And I've continued to engage with folks, not just regarding the CEI Hub, but all along the health of the river. It's a super fun site. We're going to have cleanup going on in the river.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years. It's going to take some time. They're going to be dredging up bad
Interesting.
stuff and putting down good sand.
So if I'm on the St. John's Bridge
Mhm.
and I look down and I can see that big sign that says love, have you seen that? Is it across?
It's across the
river
river from that. So it's
from
not on the
that?
St. John side.
Okay.
It's, are you familiar with Linton?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on that side. So
Okay.
it starts right around Linton. In fact, the Linton Neighborhood Association had an event earlier this year where they gave us a little tour of their portion. But then it's a 6-mile stretch
Okay.
along the river.
Okay.
That ground is prone to liquefaction, which means if there's an earthquake,
Mm-hmm.
the water drops out faster than the soil does, which makes the soil unstable.
Okay.
And, tank could be right into the
Got it.
river. And if it goes into the
Okay.
river, they're not sealed on top because
Yeah.
they have to be able to expand for heat. I'm
Interesting.
nerding out about this, but
No, yeah. And this is stuff, I'll just say that we live in little different communities within Portland,
Mhm.
and it's all Portland, and something like that affects all of Portland. It's a major thing. Like, I have relatives that say, yeah, we're just waiting for the big shake, like
right.
Portland's like getting ready for destruction here. And I don't know. I don't live every day thinking something bad is going to happen,
Right.
but shame on me if I'm not at least keeping a charged flashlight in my drawer in case the power goes out.
Shame is a little strong, but but it would be to your benefit.
It would be to my benefit of knowing
Clean
what's
water.
in my backyard. And I know this is like kind of a random thing. if someone is living close to that area and they want more information, and I can put it in the show notes, and maybe you can provide me with an idea of how people can get involved.
Tankthetanks.org.
Tankthetanks.org. Okay, perfect. Yeah, because knowledge is power, right? So knowing what's going on in our neighborhoods and in Portland is a good thing. So awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, like, you're very knowledgeable about what's happening around us, and hopefully through communication, because that's seems to be one of the main things that I read on your website for
Yes.
District 3, all of that is the need for good communication, and I'm all about that. So that's awesome.
Can I talk about that for a minute?
Please do that. I was just going to say, can you talk about where, and we don't have to poke holes or talk about the glass half full,
Right.
but it's not perfect. I don't think anything's perfect, but there are maybe new ideas and new ways on how to communicate and how to get people involved and how to get the information out there. So I'm actually really excited to hear some of your ideas. So what do you think about, maybe what has gone well and maybe what can go better?
Yeah. In regards to
Just communication from like a city board's front to the people that live in whatever district, because we are going from 4 to 12 representatives, right? So is that, I would only imagine when you get more than 4 cooks in the kitchen, sometimes communication would be more difficult, but even more important, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I could legit talk about this all week. So I'm going to try to be concise. One of the things that I've learned when I went from communications chair to chair/president of the neighborhood association, no one took over communications. So I have continued to fill that role, not nearly as thoroughly as I would like to, but the best that one can in a volunteer position. One of the motivations that I have coming into this new city council arrangement is people need to know, and people don't know. And what do they not know? Everything. I mean, there's, I still talk to people today who, are you familiar with the changes that are happening with city council? What? No. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I run into that all the time here when people come up to Ned Space and like, because of the nature of what we're doing with This Is PDX, like, more people need to know. I don't think it's not even close. Yeah.
So one of the things that happens, and this is not Portland specific, TBH, I think it's human nature. I studied anthropology, so I have a tendency to lean on that a little bit. But across the country, this is the grand American experiment called participant democracy, right? I mean, of, for, and by the people means that the people need to be educated and understand what's going on. And I don't mean that in a derisive way. I don't mean that in a high school history doesn't teach you enough. There's too much to teach in 1 year of history. So, consider revising some of the curriculum from when I was in school, but I know that that's already happened, and that's not my area of purview. So what would be really helpful is if people knew what was going on now. On the campaign trail, I hear things like, I don't know what city council does.
Yeah.
I have some assumptions, but I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Or I had a problem and I needed some help, and I called City Hall and I talked to 7 people who couldn't help me before I gave up, right? Or I signed up to testify before City Council, but I was so confused by the website, I wasn't sure if I had successfully done so. Like, it's a range, right?
Yeah.
So a big part for me is opening that information exchange between City Council and the rest of the city. At an early listening session for the Transition Advisory Committee, this was, I think, in April, March or April, I think it was April. They had come together with a recommendation of 6 committees for the new city council. And each of those committees was sort of like issues based, right? So it's like homelessness and affordable housing. 2 separate but very overlapping issues.
Sure.
Right? Public safety and health, including mental health and addiction, transportation and infrastructure, economic and job development. And I said, one of those committees needs to be communication, because if we don't have people tasked with the responsibility of communicating what's happening, it won't happen. And that's not because people are not doing their job or they're,
For sure.
whatever. It's because that has to be defined as part of the job. So that's what I would suggest. It was actually in that listening session where someone talked about having talked to 7 people and they couldn't get the help they needed and they gave up. And then they said something like, but I guess I can't expect everybody who answers the phone at City Hall to know who the right person is to talk. And I said, but can't we? Because all of the committees, the bureaus, the agencies, the teams, they all exist. They're all created intentionally. How thoroughly that's worked out ahead of time, I don't know on every instance, but they're all created. It's not like someone just stumbles into suddenly we have a transportation department, right? I mean, that's a thing that exists. If they exist and they have definitions for what they're responsible for, surely someone can collate all of that information, and then it can be like somebody calls and they need this and they have a lookup and it's like, okay, this group of people probably are responsible. There are going to be gray areas. There may be issues people call about that don't have a department. That's fine. Then, okay, now we know that we need something. And 311 is in the realm, right?
Yeah, and I just found out about 311 like a month ago. I didn't know that was even a thing. And then
I found out about it through this year. Yeah.
And then so I was on their website, and then you can print out flyers, and I'm actually going to have 1 or 2 of those flyers on our community board here at NetSpace, because wow, can we have on the 311 maybe a resource for city council information? That would be awesome.
Right.
They've got everything from trash pickup to, just all kinds of good information in one spot.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. So I said we need to have a committee responsible for that. And in their final draft, they did include a communications committee. In not just communications. It was communications. I believe I'm getting this right, but don't quote me because I'm not looking at it. I think it was communications, accessibility. I want to say transparency, but I'm not sure that was the right word. In any case, making sure people know what's going on and that people have access. You can't have a government of for and by the people if the people can't communicate with the folks who are elected to represent them. It doesn't work. So,
wow.
So that was motivated very specifically from my experience with the neighborhood association, where it's like, we're having an event. Okay, my group, my team is going to publish social media about that. I say my team. It's not. I don't have a team as part of the neighborhood association for that, right? It's me and my other peeps.
Yeah. Your fellow superheroes.
Right. Yeah. So we're posting to social media, but we post once, maybe twice if we have enough lead time, and that's not enough to capture people's imagination and to understand, to get even eyes on it, right? And we're not paying Facebook and Instagram to most of the time. On occasion we will. We're going to be, if we can get through the hoops, we're going to do so for our event on Sunday, but there's some hoops. Yeah. So, it's like people can't participate in what they don't know is happening.
Absolutely.
And I want people to know that as elected commissioners, well, we're not going to be commissioners anymore, we'll be councilors, but as elected city councilors, we work for you. How would you like us to handle this situation, right? And of course, that's not like a blank check. That's not like, here, you come on in and write the law and we'll sign it. But we want your feedback. It's valuable. Yeah. And we need feedback from stakeholders through the entire spectrum of who's impacted by whatever issue it is we're talking about, right? Yeah. So that aspect for me, I've been in business for 30 years. I've owned my own business for 14 years, and prior to that, I worked mostly in the corporate world. I a couple of outside stints, but mostly in the corporate world. I used to have a director who pulled me into any project meeting, even if I had nothing to do with the project, because I would ask questions.
Yeah.
That people are deeply involved have already made assumptions about those questions.
Yeah.
And having somebody who doesn't have the deep knowledge come in and ask that question makes you think about it in a new way, right?
Yeah.
And and also I think you described me as bubbly personality. I can lighten the mood,
Yeah, right.
So not always, but I endeavor to. So that's the communications piece. And then I also, this isn't really on my website yet because I'm pulled in 15 different directions, and my website does not fully reflect who I am as a candidate.
Which is why we're having fun today and
Right.
and getting to know you and what drives you to help Portland. So yeah.
For sure. I want to streamline the processes. Which processes? All of them. But you have to to pick and choose and start somewhere.
Yeah.
But just as an example, we've gone through the candidates for city office this year have sort of gone through like a little boot camp together. I say little, a 3-month boot camp.
Yeah.
Which has been fairly intense. All kinds of organizations are hosting events so that they can make the candidates aware of the work that they're doing, and where they need help and where there are problems, right? And where there are successes. I mean, the whole shebang. It has been so inspiring, first of all, to get to know roughly 100 other people who are so dedicated to the city and helping to make it better and to lift it out of the situation that it has fallen into, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing, right off the bat. And then all of these organizations that are doing this good work on the ground, it's like people say, oh, I'm done with politics. I'm jaded. I don't, nobody's doing anything. And it's like, oh, you're so wrong. There are thousands of people in the city doing really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's we have a very similar mission.
Yeah. And and it's crazy. It goes back to the last episode that I did, we talked about the survey that was done of people that come downtown, and whether or not their perception of the city going in the right direction or in the wrong direction really fell in line with, are you coming downtown or are you not coming downtown? And the people that were coming downtown said that it was going in the right direction. So it's crazy. So you're looking, that's a really good example. Yeah.
So in some of these sessions, it's a wide range of interests. I've done folks with the River Keepers. I've done stuff with United for Portland, which is associated with the Portland Metro Chamber. And I'm going into all of these experiences with open ears and an open mind. What are these folks telling me about their experience today in Portland? Do I agree with all of them on how we're going to solve problems or even what defining the problems in the first place? No. Pretty aligned with the Riverkeeper folks, but just an aside. But one of the things that I've heard through the United for Portland events, and they have put on excellent, very informative events, is that the permitting process for building new multifamily units, we need to build, according to the folks on the panel that we listen to, 11,000 units per year for 8 years in order to meet demand. The highest number of units we have built per year to date is 5,000. Yeah. So we need to more than double our highest output on family housing for 8 years. So that's a challenge. What are the challenges? Well, we need outside investors. Outside investors are hearing crappy stuff about Portland in national news.
Yep.
And that's a turnoff. And I don't mean that like blithely. I mean, it's
just a fact that
part of the algorithm, that they're using to determine where to invest. And also, the permitting process is like a tangled knot of yarn.
Yeah.
And in my web design business, people often come to us with, 5-10-year-old website. Multiple developers have worked on it through the years. We call them the spaghetti websites because it's like, why do you have 4 different forms
Yeah.
software installed? We don't know. Different different developers install. Okay.
Sure.
But that's a little bit of that's how a lot of things get built. This is in no way a critique or a criticism of anyone, right? It really is just the reality. I used to do that as an early developer. I would take on a project and just throw on the tools that I was familiar with. Didn't want to delete anything because I didn't put it there. It's not mine to remove, Girl Scout training.
Don't want to screw it up in the process.
Yeah, so I don't want to mess with what's there. It's like playing Jenga. I'm not taking blocks out.
Right.
I'm only putting blocks on top.
By the way, I'm really good at. We should play that sometime.
Oh man, you're gonna beat me. But okay, yes, I will definitely play that with you sometime.
Okay.
So an idea, right? They're already working on trying to streamline the permitting process, right? Making it all go through, just to start, all go through one door instead of there's 15 different doors that you got to go through, right?
Yeah.
But I take it a step further. Why don't we have a portal, an online portal, where you as a developer can log in, see all of the permits that are required for the work that you're doing, track the progress on those various permits. What are the requirements for each of them? Okay, we've done it. It's a simple checkbox, right? Done, 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 not done. Who do I need to talk to about that?
Yeah.
Go talk to, person XYZ at this number or whatever, and have it all in one place online. So it's like organized for you.
It's like the Thompson Guide of developers.
Yeah, I really am.
I just aged myself big time.
And I didn't even blink, so I'm also aging myself.
I know, you looked at me like, I totally understand when you said Thompson Guide. Like,
or was it Thomas Guide?
Whatever, man, I might have butchered it, but come on, everybody listening, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
if you're in your 40s, oh my. But a good roadmap, like heaven forbid we know how to get where we want to go.
Right. Yeah.
Like, hello.
It is to the benefit of everyone in Portland.
Yeah.
If people can do this work more efficiently. Do you know that at Waterfront Park, they have to build the stage from the sand up for every event? The Waterfront Blues concert used to cost in the ballpark of $600,000 to build that. And in the last year, it was $900,000 because costs have just gone up so much, right? And you know what? Prices are going up everywhere. When I go to the grocery store, I'm paying a lot more than I did 2 years ago. We're at that cycle financially. Like, I don't need to, I'm not about like, let's cast stones. Let's learn lessons, sure.
Yeah.
But also let's move forward in a way that accounts for the reality of the situation and helps to make this a more livable situation for everyone.
Seems like they could do like a Lego system on that stage to where you could just store. I mean, there's sadly we've got warehouses that are empty in Portland. Why can't we take like a 4-cube system that bolts together and just store it off-site and then you reuse it every year? Yeah. I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's no Wi-Fi there. And this is part of the how do we attract folks to Portland, right? Yeah. How do we make Portland a place that Portland used to be the jam, right?
Oh, yeah.
The dream of the 90s was alive.
Yep. What did he say? Boom shakalaka. And he was an amazing man. He used to come in and do voiceovers when I worked at a voiceover studio. And Bill Shonley, like, he'd come in and do one take, which would take, other people would come in and be like 5 takes and rereads. And the guy was so kind. The voice of the Blazers, Bill Shonley. And literally you'd look at him while he's talking and be like, is that voice really coming out of this man? It was wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but it's a Portland, the pride we used to have to say when someone would say, "Where are you from?" I'm from Portland. It's not the I'm from Portland.
right?
You know, and there's a big difference.
There's a big difference. And the response used to be, oh, wow, that's so cool. And
Yeah.
now it's, are you safe?
Yeah.
Am I safe? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm safe.
Of course.
Yeah, you know. But gun violence is up.
Yeah.
You know, 90 deaths in a year compared to 20. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And the sad thing is that's not special to Portland.
it is not. And actually, that's important to note
Absolutely.
because the entire country is dealing with these issues.
Yeah.
And every city, every town, every village is
Yep.
going to respond in their own way. And I believe, like, we're Portland. We got to
Yeah.
be cool about it. Like, this
Yeah.
is, there's so much cool stuff we can do
Yeah.
that is cost effective and creates a thriving future, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I could be foolish or wrong or whatever you want to call it, but I think it starts with having conversation where you feel like there's no agenda. And like, I really hope that Portlanders, is that what we call ourselves? Portlanders?
That's
I think
what I'm
that's
being told.
Yeah. So Portlanders coming together and just conversating and not hiding behind the fence in the backyard. Like, come together, talk about what you're proud of, talk about what you're scared of. Sometimes talking about what you're scared of and then you realize other people are scared of the same thing really does provide a moment of relief in knowing that you're not the only one,
Right.
right? I did sneak peek some questions to you, but I didn't put this one in. Question for you. Did I see that you were part of like a mental health little meeting or something like that for community mental health?
I did attend. I was on a panel discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because of what I was just talking about. Is there's something to be said about knowing you're not the only one that's going through whatever you're going through, and there's something empowering even in that, even though it may be sucky at the time. I think the fact that you were part of a panel discussion on mental health, man, if I was in District 3, it means a lot. I've got some of that, some mental health type stuff that I've been dealing with in my own family core unit and, you know, in the Chadwick clan. And it's like knowing that there is at least conversation around that and how that impacts the Portland people, and whether it be alcohol abuse, drug abuse, whatever it is, mental health is a big thing. And I'm just glad that people are able to talk about it without feeling like they're now positioned as a bad person because someone talked about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I totally not a planned question for you, but do you feel like that was, you know, part of what you're doing and running for District 3 is getting to know the community and the people that live in your community and Portland in general? Was that, tell me about that just a little bit. Was that empowering to you, or did you learn a lot, or I don't know, that part of your life? Did you already go in knowing a lot, and you're not educated in that realm, I don't believe?
I'm not. No, you know, School of Hard Knocks maybe, but not.
Well, yeah.
Not officially. You know.
I've gotten a noogie once or twice.
That was one of my dad's favorite forms of affection. Noogies.
Yeah. Noogies. Come here. Say uncle. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. You know, some of my deepest strengths stem from the struggles I've had in life, and we've all had them, right? But learning to persevere through them, learning how to adapt your behavior so that you're not putting yourself in the same situation over and over again, it's a real strength. And it's a little bit like, and I'm going to probably botch this, but you know, when you break a bone and then it heals, that's now the strongest part of your bone.
True.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a similar thing here. My resilience is
Yeah.
through the roof compared to where it was even just 5 years ago. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we all, can we just say, everybody, even in the best of circumstances, went through a mental health situation in the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and that's, there's no, it's a little frustrating. I understand where this comes from, but there's no shame in any mental health issue.
No.
You know, it's not a choice. One of the things that I said at the panel discussion actually was, first and foremost, always compassion, because no one is choosing to have an addiction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the same goes for mental health things. Now, there are things you can do maybe to buffer some of the impacts or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's really hard to do it by yourself. I am
Yeah.
truly blessed to have a very broad and deep social net. My family is amazing. And, you know, just as an example, this is, I said, oh, now I can say this. A guy that I worked with in college 30 years ago donated to my campaign. And I was like, wow, now I can say someone that I worked with 30 years ago donated to my campaign. And he said, I can say someone I worked 30 years ago is running for city council. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. But it's like, you know, when you retain your relationships like that, you were probably never a Girl Scout, but we.
Well, I wanted to be, what are they called? I wanted to be a brownie just because I love brownies, but
Yeah, who
you
doesn't
know.
like a brownie?
No Girl Scout.
No.
No.
Well, there's a Girl Scout song. Oh, please forgive me.
I'll forgive you now and later.
Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold.
Yes.
And that is really very much, I learned that as a child, and I posted that at my 50th birthday celebration with friends from high school last year.
That's awesome.
You know, and that's how I roll.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's awesome. Was there, from a city standpoint, when you were on that panel, do you believe, I mean, there's always more work to be done, but from where we were maybe, let's just say 10 years ago versus now, and so are you encouraged by the progress in that conversation realm of mental health with Portland?
I'm encouraged. Yes. The short answer, yes.
Okay.
Longer answer, because I always have a longer answer. The folks who are running for office right now come from a wide range of political perspectives and life experiences, but I can say that most of the people I've met are really coming in with the best of intentions to help improve the situation.
Good.
Right? To lift Portland to where, I mean, this sounds like a little bit of hubris, but hubris, how do you say it? Hubris?
Hubris?
Hubris.
Yeah.
But, you know, where Portland belongs. That
Yes.
shining city on the
Yeah.
hill, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to the Thorns games. And,
Yeah. We're also the city that works,
right?
evidently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Yes.
sense. I mean, it's a Portland,
That was a Portland
right?
thing, yeah.
Port town. So I'm encouraged. And what this change has done is it's really, you can't see me at home, but my face just lit up like a
It
Christmas
did. I'll
tree.
vouch for that one.
People are coming out as themselves, as real humans. You know, yeah, we're all having to do some of the politics. That's how it works. But we're also coming to the table and getting to know one another,
Yeah.
as people. And I think that openness is foundational to I don't know how I want to say this, solving problems or addressing mental health issues that we see in community, because there's such a I feel like there's historically been this sort of aversion to open discussion, and because of the shame or embarrassment that people feel, they don't want to reveal their own
Yeah.
situation. I'll tell you, I have ADHD. I was diagnosed at 45, and prior to that,
Yep.
I had no idea why I did things the way that I did.
You and I both row the same boat.
Yeah.
And that's as an adult that has it and then went through diagnosis with my own kids. And then I'm sitting there hearing the doctor say all of these things, and I'm like, wait a second. I've been dealing with that for a long time.
Right.
And then, like, we figured it out for my kids, and then to see the night and day difference in them was, from a parent standpoint, of it just like so heartwarming. And then I'm sitting there when no one's around, and I'm thinking, well, damn, should I get tested? And I'll just say, everybody listening, if you have been thinking that maybe there's a chance that you've got some ADD, HD, which they've kind of lumped it all into one category now, the, attention deficit disorder, hyper. So I'm not a hyper dude, but my mind's always everywhere.
Right.
So, the if you're thinking about it, just get tested.
Legit.
Like, you knowing what, when the light bulb turns on in the room and you can see all the corners, and people that were diagnosed and are now maybe feel like they're in a better place, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, first time I had my meds, and I'm not pushing meds, but there is a time and a place, I believe. There was this moment of like, oh, you mean I can actually focus on one thing now and like get something done? That's a huge thing. So I would encourage everyone to, at least if you think there's a chance that you have ADD or some form of that, just go get tested. No one's, it's only better times. Right. Honestly, it's been nothing but like knowing that, thinking that maybe you might have an issue and not understanding why you are the way you are, and then going into a place of feeling empowered and knowing how to attack the day. It was so freeing for me.
Oh my God, it changed my life.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would even have occurred to me to run for city council prior to my diagnosis.
Wow.
And as much as medication, what has helped is creating supports for those areas that are not my areas of strength, right? And I mean, come on. Nobody has an area of strength in every single area.
No.
Like, it's so funny to me that this is even something to worry about. But,
yeah.
I have a support team. I have with a lot of people. I don't know how, but, therapist, coach, assistant, all the things.
Yeah.
And I had some of those things before I was diagnosed too, but it changed in nature once we knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And really big thing that I think ties it back to what's going on in Portland and what we're doing with city council and all that is, when you can look with open eyes at a situation and say, oh, that's not going to work that way. It's just not going to work that way. That's not how that one thing works.
Yeah.
Then you can stop banging your head against it, trying to make it work that way.
Yeah.
And you can change your efforts, and now you can go do something that you can do.
Yeah.
And making that mental shift for myself, life-altering.
You mean a Volkswagen Bug will never pull a fifth wheel trailer? Maybe not.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm a Herbie fan, just like the next, but no, it's not gonna happen.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
I know, right? Oh,
you're gonna be talking about, what was it?
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Thank you. See, you knew what I meant. Even though I couldn't say.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's Oh, man. So I won't go off on that tangent. Speaking of ADD.
I was going to say, now you know why Tangent is my second favorite city in Portland.
Oh, man.
It's not, I don't know if it's a city or a town, but
Yeah.
it's on the map, Tangent. And I
Yeah.
once took a trip to visit my bestie who lives down in Humboldt County. And I drove through Tangent because I was taking a tangent to my trip. Like, I was so, the whole meta-ness of, like, taking a tangent through Tangent. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm over it.
Yeah. No, I understand. So I just want to touch on a couple more things.
Okay.
Before,
This is
I
taking
know.
a lot longer than you may have thought.
but that's okay. I think we're touching on some really good stuff that is just really important. And we talked about it a couple times. So we're going from 4 to 12
Mm-hmm.
on the number of city council, and I had a couple people when I mentioned that. They said, well, and I don't even remember the city. They did that in such and such a city, and it ended horribly.
Oh.
And I don't know enough about that scenario to where I have a sneaky suspicion that the communication wasn't very good. And maybe that's why it was maybe a belly flop. I don't know.
Right.
But we don't want to win the belly flop competition.
No, we do not.
So with that being said, pretend I know nothing about why a city council is important, and going from 4 to 11, what are the benefits of that?
Well,
And maybe what's maybe one concern? I mean, not everything's sunshine and roses,
never.
but knowing what the concern is, maybe we can, along the way, we can help alleviate that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as objective as we can be in our analysis, right? To get to the root of things. It's more than just going from 4 to 12, right? I mean, that is in itself a big change. Currently, we have 4 commissioners, and those 4 commissioners run most of the bureaus in Portland. And that means that you're electing somebody because you like something about them, you like their politics, you like their personality, they hug your baby, I don't know, whatever, got your attention. And now they're running a bureau for the city that may not have anything to do with anything they've ever done professionally, right? And I don't mean to imply that professional experience is the only valid experience, but
Sure.
I certainly don't want to come in and run Peabot on day one.
No.
So that's just, and it's not like they are doing the day-to-day executive management of those organizations, but they're overseeing them.
Yeah.
And so we've moved that responsibility from city council, and we've put that under the mayor's line of command. There's going to be a city administrator, there will be deputy city administrators, and those folks will be hired, one hopes, specifically because they have experience and expertise in running bureaus and making a city function.
Okay.
Right? So that is mind-blowing. That's a huge change, right?
Yeah.
And I think one for the positive. Now, with city council, now what's left? Well, policy and constituent services and budget.
Okay.
That's sort of what city council will be responsible for going forward. And there's a logic there. You're creating the policy, you're aligning the budget with that policy, one hopes, again. And constituent services, one hopes, will help to feed that, right? What are the things we're seeing again and again? Is there a way we can streamline that? I'm always going to ask, is there a way we can streamline that?
Sure.
Because I just feel like
Yeah.
you can streamline almost anything. So let's do that if we can.
We did not have a meeting about a meeting to have this podcast.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right.
Like, how many meetings do you need?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fewer hops from I have something that I need to I have the thing that I need.
Yeah.
Is best, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, of course, for the city as opposed to any one individual. So that I think is great. Another cool thing about having 12 counselors, I keep saying commissioners. I'll get used to that change. And another cool thing about having 12 counselors is because we are divided into districts, areas of Portland that historically have not had much representation in city politics and governance will now have a seat at the table. 3 seats, in fact, at the table.
Got it.
I think in conversation with folks from East Portland, I think I understand that there have been 2 city councilors throughout the history of Portland from East Portland, and on day 1, they're going to have 3. I mean, it's just
Wow.
the shift that one hopes will happen with that representation. It can be massive. So I think that that's good. And also, there's a lot of work to be done right now. I think more hands makes for lighter work. If those hands are cooperative, if those hands are on the same page about what the ultimate goals are. And so I think that when we start on January 2nd, we really need to sit down at the table and say, okay, right, what are our priorities? And that means, what are the issues? But it also means what values do we hold close to our hearts as we evaluate possible solutions, right? I am in my heart of hearts very progressive, but I can have a conversation with literally anybody, right? And not be argumentative.
Yeah.
I might debate. Some people might consider it argumentative, but it's like there's no hate here, I don't have the energy.
I don't
for
choose my friends based upon what religion, what sports team you vote for. Oh, who you vote for,
Right.
or what sports team you root for.
Yeah.
Man, I really hope that the amount of city people coming together to help Portland, I'm crossing my fingers, I'll find some wood to tap on.
Yeah.
That they can all just come together and do what's right for Portland and their individual neighborhoods, and through conversation and not getting bent out of shape. That's my hope. And
I have a thought that might be unpopular, but my ideal vision for the makeup of city council would be to have representatives from various parts of the political spectrum. I mean, in my utopian vision of life, would I like to have a fully progressive city council and, decisions are based on purely like environmental impact and human, yes, that's what I would like. Yeah. But I live in reality, and the reality is that there are a lot of folks who don't want that. Yeah. And so, okay, well, I would like to coexist peacefully.
Yeah.
I would like, actually, not just to coexist peacefully, but to celebrate together the areas where we have commonality.
Yeah, for sure.
And to be proud to say, yes, I'm a Portlander and so are you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I hope is that we have a wide range of voices on city council, all of which are carried by humans who can have a conversation.
Love that. I don't think very many people know. Well, I know not, and I will say, in humbleness, that I was one of the guys that had no clue what the city council, why that would be important for me as a person in Oregon and Portland. The fact that there are sections of Portland that now are going to potentially be heard, that their voice will be taken into account, I think that's good. That's a good thing for Portland. That's a good thing. I've had people in my past interact with me and come back later and say, you know what, thank you for just allowing me to be heard. I didn't say a whole lot in response, but the fact that they felt like they were heard was like a huge thing. Like people want to be heard. They want to know that they're just being heard. Mm-hmm. Great if you take action on it, but just hear me for a second. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I have probably the last question. In 20 years from now, I mean, you will be alive 20 years from now. Let's just say that that's a thing, because I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
Same. What do you want people to say KJ is? Who's KJ? What, I know your mom. I know you've got a life or history of serving community through hanging out with your mom and what she did, and like there's this story of who you are, and who knows, maybe you have a way of getting rid of all of the wonderful petroleum products in North Portland before the earthquake hits.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't. Maybe it's something that through communication, people are having the right conversations. So my question to you is, what 20 years from now, what do you want people to say about you? I know that's a crazy question.
No, it's an interesting question because there's so many possible answers, right? And I think ultimately, I would like people to say KJ was part of a team that helped Portland thrive.
Yeah.
And it feels a little anticlimactic almost, but I don't need to be everyone's hero. I'm not trying to be that. I'm someone who helps to move the ball forward with my team, right?
Yeah.
And that's very much the approach that I'm coming at this with, and that's what I would like people to take away. I would like to be successful at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome because there's, just like with the city council going from 4 to 12, and just like what I'm trying to do here with This Is PDX, I can't do it alone.
No.
There's just no way.
Mm-mm.
I wish you all the best. Do you have any final, before I do my little going away speech here, do you have any final well wishes or anything that you've said a lot today, and I really appreciate you being here, I guess is what I would say. But I want to give you a final opportunity to just say what's really on your mind, and then we'll kind of wrap things up.
Yeah. The campaign process is challenging. It can be exhausting. It can be confusing. You can find yourself in the middle of a situation and think, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And B, how do I get out? But I am really pleased to have met some really amazing people through this journey. And I'm so grateful for that and so grateful for them. And I really do hope that on January 2nd, I will be sitting at the table in City Hall with my fellow current candidates, but at the time, counselors. And if that's not what happens, I will continue to do good work to help Portland, because that's where my heart is. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I just really appreciate you being here. I really hope that this people in Portland take what's been said today and maybe does a little bit of research for themselves. That's always good. I will put in the show notes, some different resources for people to check out, different places where they can get more information. And Portland, I just really appreciate you. Follow. If you do that, you'll get notified. And check out next podcast. Should be Ripley. I may have told a fib last time and said Ripley was coming up, but Kelly was gracious enough to be here, and I appreciate you. And maybe we can do this again sometime.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.